Our guest tonight, a very, very short, brief intro. I met this gentleman on the mountain bike trails. Those of you that don't know, I've been riding mountain bike for 7-8 years. A lot of the community tonight is from the mountain bike community. I started to watch his YouTube channel. Very instructional, very inspiring. And then I remember being on a group ride and I got to shake his hand and I fell in love with the guy behind the bike, the guy behind the YouTube channel. He's a great soul. He's an ex-skateboarder that turned YouTube mountain biker. And that's just the short story, but the long one is filled with lots of life trials and tribulations for sure. And that's why we've invited him to come on tonight to talk about changing your life to suit your passions. Will you show some love in the house tonight for my dear friend, Tony DaSilva? Tony, thank you for being on Circles tonight, brother.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. Always good to hear somebody that's a fan of my life.
Yeah. You've got some fans in the house for sure, brother. I wonder, for the sake of everybody, I wonder if you could just do us a favor, kind of unpack Tony DaSilva a little bit, some of the backstory, help us catch us up on who Tony is. Do you mind?
No problem. Then where do I start? It's always weird when you try to sum up your life in a couple of minutes, but I'll do my best to try to do it. So basically, I come from a skateboard background. My mother owned a skateboard park back in Connecticut when I was a really young kid, and I fell in love with it. I love the individuality that came with skateboarding. I love the art form. I love the creativity that went along with it. I like team sports too, but there's something about skateboarding that just I felt united with my board, and I was able to progress at my own rate. And I actually found that I excelled at it, and I had a short career as a professional skateboarder. And that being said, being a skateboarder in the 90s and growing up in that era, skateboarding wasn't as like quote unquote cool as it is now. So I always kind of felt like an outsider in school, out of school. I always had my skate friends, and I once had like a double life, like the friends I had in school and the ones that I had kind of after school and the ones that I'd go skate with. So I kind of felt like a loner most of my life. And but the one thing that always stayed with me was my friends from skateboarding and skateboarding as a whole. It became part of who I was, and it became my identity. I moved to California, where I live right now in Orange County. I moved to Huntington Beach to proceed my skateboard career. A couple years into that, I found myself getting pretty injured, and I was mid skate career. It was a little early for me. I know skateboarding doesn't last forever, but it hit me pretty quick, and it hit me pretty hard. I was at a contest and tore all the ligaments in my ankle, and I was out for about a year. And I had to start thinking about my life over again. Like, what am I going to do if I'm not on the skateboard? And I had no real life skills. I had no real training or background or fallback at that time. I always knew I would go back to school at some point. I always loved writing and journaling. So I found myself just buying a one-way ticket back from California to Connecticut, going back to school, putting myself through school with the help of some financial aid and just working at odd jobs and getting a journalism degree. And always knew that I would fall back. I somehow find my way back into skateboarding because I always wanted to do something that I was passionate about in my life. I knew that for sure. I didn't have the skills at the time. I didn't have the know-how, but I always knew that I wanted to lead back into doing something as a job that I actually cared about and invest my energy into a positive way that I got something back out of.
Hold that fucking car. Hang on just a second. There we go. Sorry about that, Tony. Go ahead, brother.
No problem. So what that ended up leading me to do is getting into marketing a little bit. I got into social media when I first came out, and hit up one of my old buddies from the skate industry and said, hey, I'm coming back to California. I'm selling everything I own. One of the hardest things I ever did, and drove cross country and waited out a job at a skateboard company. Ended up getting back into that industry. Has kind of walked out the back door and walked right into the front door, I like to say, with that little segue, because it was something that I felt like I never left, but I'd rejoined the skate community again. Felt like a resurgence and kind of like a coming home for me. From there, we talked about mountain biking. I'd worked there for about 8 years and COVID hit and layoffs happened, and I'm doing this mountain bike channel on the side, and um, when I got laid off, it was the chance where the channel was taking off, and I was like, what the hell? I love mountain biking now just as much as I ever loved skateboarding, and it became a passion of mine. And I'm right now in the thick of trying to make this YouTube life work, which is easier said than done. It's a grind for sure, but I'm on the mountain bike trails weekly, and I'm traveling, and I'm trying to stay true to the idea of sticking with things that I'm passionate about, and trying to make that a priority in my life over everything else, in a way, even money sometimes, like trying to put my mental health, happiness, and things I care about above all.
Yeah.
That's the short story.
I love the short story. I appreciate you sharing so much. You make me think back in the day about, you're skating, you think you've got this passion, and then you kind of find these, whether it's injuries, these things that you're experiencing that causes you to pivot. Now, I know somebody's got to be listening here today that can relate to having to pivot, but pivoting is not easy, is it, Tony?
No.
It's not the easiest thing to do. How were you able? Could you dive a little bit deeper into that? Was it a mindset that helped you shift? How did you come to that reality and then follow through with that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sometimes it's a realization for me, and sometimes it's just the way that life like pushes you. So for me, the reality for me that I knew that one thing. I knew I was going back with a skill set. I knew that if I wanted to get back into skateboarding, a lot of people in skateboarding, they don't go to the background and get their education or this and that. They just kind of move into like working at a skateboard company. But I didn't really know if I was going to do that. So I went back and I wanted to be a writer, and I was passionate about writing and copywriting, and I was going to be a possible reporter. And I just loved that aspect of working with people that way. But I ended up finding my way back into the skateboard world a few years later, and I realized that it was something that I was still heavily passionate about. It was like something that I didn't know was still alive within me. So that's when I kind of try to figure out, like, hey, how can I do this? It was a realization where it was like I kind of felt like I knew where I wanted to belong again, and that
Mm.
passion that never died was still a fire in me. So I figured it out, and just trying to strategically plan out how I could do that and use my skill set in order to get back in the door. And that's what I ended up trying to do, is just it's a grind. It wasn't easy and it was scary, but I always saw the path forward. Like I saw where I could be, and I saw myself through it. And it's interesting because when I say I see myself through it, I use that in mountain biking, I use that in skateboarding. If I'm doing a trick or if I'm doing something, if I can see myself put through the trick or through at the end of the tunnel, coming out of it in a positive way, then I'm going to go for it. And it's the same thing in life. If I could see myself through that strategy or that, like, scary thing, coming out on top at the end, then that's what helps me with confidence. It helps me push through that door and kind of open it up and see the light on the other side in a way.
Yeah. So well said. It's kind of like doing tricks on mountain bike, right? I remember when I first started to jump, and I'm not that big of jumper, but I've got some people in the house, and I know you included, Tony, that you make this look so freaking easy. We watch the YouTube channel, you come up to the lip, and then all of a sudden you're doing this whip in the midair, and I'm going, how in the hell does he do that, right? But I think you said something very important. I think we could all relate to is that when we find ourselves in difficult, challenging situations in life, a tool that you just dropped is we must be able to visualize ourselves on the other side of this.
Right.
Yes. Visualization, so important and key now, even in what you do and how you ride. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of something that I've taken with me from being a young kid skateboarding, growing up and getting that confidence, seeing myself through things. And I didn't really touch on it much, but me going back into society after being like the pro skateboarder, not having any skills, it was probably the scariest point in my life, because not only did I not have skills to get a job, but I had no social skills either. I mean, I lived this grand life where I didn't have a lot of money, but I'm traveling and touring around the world in skate tour vans with pro skaters and flying all over, doing demos and doing shows and things like that. So I had my life almost being catered to in a way where it's not really normal for a lot of people. So me going back and like I was like too much of a partier, and I was not really like very into like going to get a normal 9 to 5 job. I didn't have the skills, like just getting up and going there was a big deal. I remember, just because I had to be somewhere, and all these little things that I take for granted now, or maybe people take for granted. Those are things that you learn, in life. Like just being able, like going to college was a structure for me. It was a learning tool too, but it was also like a structure for me, almost what people use the military for. It's like you got to be somewhere at a certain time, you got to do the work, you got to put the work in, and it's up to you. Like there's no parents there that are going to tell you to do your homework anymore. It's like, what do you want to do with your life? You're the one that's in charge of it. You have to put the effort in, and you're the ones. That's the thing that I remember, is that I'm the one, or we are the ones that are going to reap the rewards from the effort you put in now. So it's a long-term game. I kept telling myself it's not something I'm going to notice in a day or two, but a year or two maybe is when I'll start noticing things that are going to be making my life better.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned something in your story earlier about the mental health side. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Did you struggle in that area as you were going through these life changes?
Oh, completely. I mean, lack of confidence, anxiety. I've struggled with anxiety my entire life, and I still do. I go to therapy once a week, and I talk through things. But back then, I didn't really know what anxiety was. I was kind of just, I was like kind of shy, and I didn't really know. I want to say like 20 years ago, it wasn't as a talked about thing, and maybe mental health wasn't as talked about, and at least in my circles, it wasn't. So I didn't really identify with it in the way that I can point the finger to it now and say like, this is what I'm working with. But it was hard for me to do those decisions and make those decisions. One, with lack of confidence. Two, with the anxiety. But I knew what I had already been through in my life, and I knew that even though I didn't have the book smarts right away, or the social the social continuity, like the way to be in a normal society and get up and do the things. I knew I had the street smarts, and I knew I was a smart kid. So I knew that I took that confidence with me of being a skateboarder, and putting myself through the ringer, and whatever I put in my previous life was the same amount of work I wanted to put in my mental health and my mental life moving forward. Because being a professional skateboarder isn't easy. You got to have patience. You gotta put up with some physical pain. You gotta put up with some mental pain. So it's not like I was foreign to dealing with problems and pushing forward. I just had to re-strategize how to work those angles into my new life.
Yeah. One of the things I found fascinating about skateboarding, now I didn't skateboard, but I had a friend of mine, Dean Laux. Dean used to skate with Tony Hawk, right?
Oh,
The day of
cool.
Tony Hawk back in the day. So, and I remember Dean was always banging himself up. I mean, he was getting bruised, banged, beaten up. Well, it's kind of like the mountain bike community. And we watch some of our crew, right?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
always in a cast, they're always in some type of brace. But what was so unique was this mental toughness, Tony, this insatiable desire to get back up and get back up and get back up, right?
Yeah.
We just where have you found that comes from, Tony? Is that something that somebody's born with, or is that something we can learn? Do you feel?
I think it's something we can learn, because I definitely wasn't born with it. For me, I learned it through, many people learn it through other sports and things like that, or just anything, and trial and error in life, whether it's writing or sports. For me, I learned it in skateboarding. Get back up, and the feeling of conquering what you're going after is what I chased a lot of the time. It was this feeling of like knowing I can do it and proving it to myself and building that confidence within myself, getting back up, pushing through the voices that tell you that you should just give up. It would be a lot easier to sit back down. But once you power through that, and move that voice and see that visually seeing that through, um, I don't know if euphoric is the right word, confidence building, but it's kind of addicting once you get used to that mentality, and just not letting yourself give up. And like, I'm not saying 100% of the time, because sometimes you just can't get back up. You're hurt,
Yeah.
or whatever, mentally or physically. But like, don't put it away. Put it in your pocket and save it for later. Because it's just there waiting for you. You can beat it.
Yeah. Put it in your pocket for a later time. I love that. I remember I was watching a video I used to use in a seminar workshop that I did about which Alex, I think it was, put grit, the word grit in the chat. I love that word grit. That's that deep down inside myself feeling and determination that you will not defeat me. You know, it stares fear in the face and says, you will not defeat me. I remember, Tony, I was watching this, you know, those half pipe things that they do.
Yeah.
This guy was freaking ridiculous, Tony. It had to be, he was dropping in 50 feet, right? Trying to do this trick. And he crashed, laid lifeless in the center of the floor for, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. All the crew came rushing out. And when he came to, he would not let anybody touch him. And he just pushed them away. He grabbed his board, went off of the ramp, and you hear the crowd silent. And then within a couple of minutes, you hear this roar. Here he comes again. It wasn't but 20 minutes later. And he's climbing up again, 50 feet in the air to throw the same trick. And Tony, when he landed that trick, oh my God. I didn't even know the guy and I was crying for him, right? It's like I've got goosebumps. I think that's what I hear you saying. There's nothing like that win when you come back, yeah?
That's it. And I think those can be small wins or big wins. You know what I mean? Like that was a life-changing moment probably for that skater in his life. But we have those, I think, I find these little challenges in my life daily. If I'm having a bad day, you know, just going to do the errands I have to do sometimes, you know, just even if you don't feel like doing it, you push through and you're happy you did it, getting things done that you need to do in life. All of them can be attributed to that mentality, I think, in a lot of ways. And that's what I use that a lot.
Yeah, I love Alina put a warrior mindset in the chat. That's kind of what that is. I remember reading I've read a lot about David Goggins, and David writes in a lot of his books about this level of pain. Now he runs like these 100 miles, right, yeah. Tony? And he said that how he reprogrammed himself is that he used to avoid the pain or not like the pain. And then he just kept telling himself when he was in the most painful times of his life, he kept telling himself, this is your new joy. This is your new high. This is what feels good to you. It was painful, but he reprogrammed himself to like that pain. I hear you talking a lot about that right now, right?
Yeah, Goggins is a very extreme example. He's definitely someone that appreciates the pain and everything that goes along with it too. He's on a different planet than I am for sure. But I'm talking about maybe a calmer, tamed down version, but it's along the same lines, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think anybody that gets back up and tries again is a hero, right, Tony?
I agree. That in itself is kind of addicting because once you get on that path a little bit and you start getting those small wins, it starts to become like almost second nature, like an autopilot, and you just kind of you kind of step into that role.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about. So we've heard about the skateboard. Tony kind of went in the industry, out of the industry, back in the industry, but now you're in mountain biking and now the YouTube channel. How did that transition happen again from the skateboard arena now into the mountain bike and then into the YouTube channel, Tony?
Yeah, so I found mountain biking later in life. As I got older, I'm in my mid-40s right now, and as much as I'm always going to be a skater, true, first and foremost, as I got older, I just couldn't do the tricks I wanted to do. I'm not jumping down handrails as in a 40-year-old body anymore. So I found mountain biking took the place for a lot of the thrill-seeking or adrenaline boosting that I missed from skateboarding, and it's something that you can get equally and worse hurt on, yes, but the crashes seem to, knock on wood here, come few and far between. As not because every time I'd go skating, I'd fall to get either a twisted ankle or bang up my shin or something. But mountain biking was something that I could go fast on. And first and foremost, what I found and that what mountain biking brought me and what skateboarding didn't is the love of outdoors. You know, in skateboarding, I'm in the city, I'm in alleys, and I'm in dirty places a lot of the time. Mountain biking, the bike takes me to some of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. You know, up in the top of a mountain. When right now I was just in Park City, Utah, on top of a mountain when there's snow melt and there's birds chirping, and I was a moose taking a nap on the chairlift when I was going up, and just things that I just never thought I'd experienced in my life. So I'm getting, not only am I getting the adrenaline and like the activity and the physicality of it, but I'm getting this beauty that I didn't see before on a skateboard. So I became addicted to mountain biking pretty quick. And I started a YouTube channel at my last job where I was working in the skate industry, and on the side, and it just started, you know, growing slowly while I was working, and I would make videos on the side here and there. And It's funny. The name of the channel is called The Outsider MTV, and I kind of, people always ask me like, why did I call it that? Well, if you remember when the started the conversation when I was talking about, I always kind of felt like an outsider on a skateboard. So it was a perfect place for me to put that name to, because it's got that double meaning. It's kind of like I always felt like an outsider, but I'm also outside, outside in the outdoors, and it just was this perfect fit for me. Kind of going off on a tangent there about the name, but I really, it's kind of how I see myself, even though I've acclimated pretty good to society. Like there's a little kid in me somewhere still that feels like an outsider, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how it became about, and led into what it is now. And there's about, I would say, 30,000 subscribers almost right now, and I'm able to make a living off of it. I'm not breaking the bank with making lots of money, but I'm sure as heck enjoying myself and traveling more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah. I love it. Friends, I wonder if you're just joining in with us. We're listening to Tony DaSilva, a skateboarder turned mountain biker turned YouTube channel enthusiast. But behind that, he's a superhuman being. If you get a chance to sit down, I remember, I'm going to pause on that. I remember, Tony, when I first met you on the trail. Now, as a mountain biker, friends, whenever we meet our quote unquote heroes on the trail, there's this nostalgia. It's like, oh my God, there's Tony DaSilva, right? And I remember, I think we were at Sky Park. And one of the things that you did was when I came up and said, hey, Tony, I've seen you. I mean, you were just so welcoming, so gentle, so real. And I remember when you shook my hand or give me a fist pump, I thought, oh my God, I just shook hands with the Tony DaSilva. Talk to me a little bit about that, because that's real. I mean, I did the same thing with Adam Mock and Mark Hill, who are here on the call with us. Break down that nostalgia feeling a little bit for us, can you? I know it's got to feel that way to you too, with everybody wanting an autograph, they want a picture with you. How do you manage all that, brother? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I had a little bit of that in my skateboard life. So I had a little bit of taste of that, and I didn't appreciate it as much, I don't think, as I do now. Now it's something that I really love taking the time into, appreciating that someone is going to take the time to watch my video or even know who I am, because I work hard on making the videos and I put my love into it. And so when someone like you came up to me for the first time and knew what I was about and what I was making, it just warms my heart. I love taking the time and chatting with anyone that does that. I mean, it's more than I can express, because it's just something that I don't see a lot of people when I make the videos. I don't get to talk to people one-on-one. I'm making them and they go up on the internet and I get comments, but when I see the interactions in real life and physical form, it's just it's a whole different experience. I just love it.
Yeah. I'm going back to your name a little bit. Friends, are you enjoying the conversation with Tony? Let's share some love tonight. I just absolutely love when we get guests like Tony on. We're talking about life. These are life applicable things that we can apply to our own life, right, Tony? I want to go back to your name, The Outsider. I heard it in your story about skateboarding, feeling like you're outside. By the way, anybody in the house today have ever felt like an outsider? Throw up a heart. I know I got mine in the air. What I love about that point, Tony, is that you were able to take something that made you at first feel like an outcast, an outsider, and you were able to flip it. And what you thought was your enemy, so to speak, became your victory. You flipped it. It became your brand. And it sounds like you embraced that once you thought was a problem is now a part of you. Yeah, did I get that right?
Yeah. I mean, I just said that little kid in me is still in there. I'll always feel a little bit like an outsider, and I embraced it instead of running away from it. And one of the reasons because of that is because, as you get older, you know who you are. You know what you are stand for. You just get in you just feel yourself more in your bones. And when I was younger, I didn't like that I was always feeling like an outsider in school and things like that. But, like that grit that I think you used the word before, or whatever word you want to fit in there, is what made me who I am. And I don't want to shy away from that. I want to jump into that and lead into that, because I think that's a strength in itself. Feeling like an outsider as a kid means that you're more independent. You get to know yourself a little bit quicker. You're more comfortable in situations being on the outside. You don't need everyone's approval. There's little things like that. I know I started to learn as I got older, were strengths for me. And when I started looking for those strengths, that's what I found, being an outsider. And I wouldn't say that in life right now I feel as much like one, because of I've just grown so much, and I've had such a great community around me, and people like you and friends and family. And I think that it's something that I will always draw from, though. I will draw from from those strengths for the rest of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, super cool. I wonder if you could share a little bit, and friends, we're going to open up the mic to you too. So if you've got a comment, a question for our guest tonight, make sure you start getting ready. I want to open the mic in just a few for that. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the power of community, Tony, because it's so big. It's big in the skateboarding. I hear it's big in the mountain. Of course, here at Circles. Why do you think that community is so important to our human potential and growth?
For me, one of the strengths of it lets me know that I'm not alone. And we're not alone. Like, having like-minded people to support you, people that you can talk to about things in your life and share things, whether they're good or bad. I mean, it's the difference between, feeling alone and feeling like you're not alone, even if you are alone, if that makes any sense. Like, having that community there to back you up, just knowing it's behind you, pushing you, lifting you back up, is just something that I think is just an incredible feeling to have. Like, even if you're not talking to anyone in the moment, you know that you have that backbone to fall back on. And I think that for me is one of the greatest things, is that I'm not alone. And I think that just saying that out loud is pretty strong too.
Yeah, that's very powerful, friends. What do you feel like that in the house? I'm not alone. I love that. What just struck me when you said that, Tony, is that's right. If I'm alone, meaning physically I'm not with anybody else, but I feel connected to a community that I know that right now there's people that know me, people who love me, people who care about me, people who support me, right?
Right.
What's so profound, Tony, for me as a moderator, host of Masterclass on Circles, is that the guests that I bring on that come on really unbeknownst, not planned or scripted, we all have a commonality in this whole thing about loneliness. And what many of people that come on don't understand or don't know, but the mission of Circles, Rod, our CEO, is to end loneliness in the world. What a mission to end the loneliness in the world. And I hear you say that the power
That's
of community
fantastic.
helps us do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it
cool.
really does.
Yeah. So super cool. So how does one handle two things? How does one um, embrace the what appears at first to be a negative, an outsider? Let's start there. How does one, maybe somebody's in our group tonight, they're dealing with anxiety, Tony, so bad that they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be heard, they can't go out in public. Right now, they can only see it as a negative. They can only see it as a crutch. How do we help them embrace it and start to come out of that darkness into the light, so to speak? What tips or advice would you have for us on that line?
For me, it's if I've ever had, and I still do deal with it, that type of anxiety, just one step at a time. Like, for me, it's like, let's say a mountain bike ride. I just have anxiety that day, but I know once I know I have to kind of go out there, and I know that it's the day, and I plan this, and I'm going to go. One of the things I do is I just think of one thing at a time. Like, get my shorts ready, put my pads in the box. Where's my bike? Put air in my tires. I'm not in a rush. I'm not rushing out the door to do this activity. I'm taking baby steps along the way, and it helps calm me down. If you're going to the store and you have anxiety, and you just don't want to be around people, just look where your keys are. Get in the car. Think about driving to the store. You're not in the store yet. You're being present. You're present in the moment, and you're focusing on what you're doing at that time. And for me, what I find when I get there, or if I'm doing that thing, it's a little bit easier to take in. Like I used to get a lot of anxiety when I would go to work. I'm an introvert, so if there's days where I just didn't want to be around people, these are the steps I would take. Wouldn't think about work until I was there. I'd try to stay as present as I can in the moment, and as hard as that is sometimes, it's as easy as it is sometimes, because if you just look down and see your keys in your hand, jiggle them, you just breathe and you feel that breath. For me, those are the little things that help me overcome bigger situations, because a lot of the times life can feel so overwhelming and those tasks feel so big that they get, you get drenched by them like a wave. So for me,
Yeah.
breaking them down into little pieces is what helps me.
Yeah. You make me think about that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? One bite at a time. Our friend Adam in the chat put 1% better.
Yeah.
Friends, I want to throw down the challenge, as we would say in the mountain bike community. We're going to throw down a challenge. My challenge and our challenge to you tonight is, how can you take how can you take your very present self exactly as you are and just simply get 1% better? I love what you said, Tony. Let me focus on, where are my keys? Okay, I got my keys.
Hmm.
Now, isn't it amazing, Tony, that our mind goes ahead of us all the time?
Always.
And then it brings back to us, I don't know about your mind, anybody else's mind, but mine brings back all the crap that could possibly go wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
no, why doesn't our mind go out and get all the goodies and bring them back to us and feed it? Why don't I see myself clearing the jump rather than casing
Yep.
it and crashing, right? The mind is a weird thing, isn't it, Tony?
It's so true.
Yeah.
Thinking about going to eat and you're thinking about the parking space rather than the steak you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, so true. And I'm already pissed because there is no parking space and I haven't even gotten the freaking parking
Yeah.
lot yet. But guess what? Then when I get in the parking lot, there is no space. And then I don't know if you've met these people. I want to become one of them when I grow up. But they always say, you know what? I visualize a parking space before I even get to the parking lot. And lo and behold, I pull in the parking lot and there's a parking space. Anybody else in the house tonight want to just kick that person in the shin? Yeah, right. But that's exactly what we're talking about. When we set our intentions on those things, they do seem to work for us. I don't think I love what you're sharing and putting down tonight, Tony, because what you make me feel is so real. Because does the struggle ever stop, or do we just simply get better at managing it?
Say again?
Does the struggle ever stop, or do we just get better managing it?
For me, I think it gets better. I get better managing it because the
Yeah,
thoughts still creep up, but then you've been there before and you know what that's like. There's good days and bad days for me, Definitely one of those situations where some days I don't even have to think about it and I'm on it. I'm doing my things, I'm grabbing my keys, I'm going to the store, I'm going mountain biking. And then other days I have to kind of take a step back and just remember and think back on the tools that I've used before and dip into that. So for me, it's never like a completely 100% you're cured, because I think that's just being human and be part of life. But there are ways to help cope and help, for me, deal with that, and that the acceptance of that it's going to be okay. Like you said, like this parking space, you get there and there is no parking, but it's going to be okay. You're going to find one. It might take you an extra 5 minutes. It's going to be there. Maybe you'll have to park on the street, but it's not the end of the day, and you'll get done what you need to get done, and you'll be happier for it, and you'll be proud of yourself for it.
yeah, I love it. Alex in the chat dropped this comment: the baby steps help us to enjoy the process too. I love that. We got to
Yeah,
learn to enjoy the process, right, Tony? Um,
definitely.
yeah, I know for me, a lot of times riding mountain bike, especially if I ride the same trails, I know where the hard parts are at before I even
Yeah,
get there. And then a
yeah,
challenge sometimes that I haven't got the bike out of the car yet, right?
yeah.
And my mind is already at that hard spot. I'm already sweating and I ain't even pumping the pedal yet on the bike, Tony, but my
Um,
mind is. So I'm trying to reframe that mindset constantly. Um, what do you find the mountain bike community brings so much value to you, Tony? Why do you find it that particular community has done this for you?
For me, it's such a great cross section of people from all across the board. Especially coming into mountain biking later in life, a lot of the people that I become friends with or know are such a good cross section from all from people that have skated before, not skated before, people that I have nothing in common with, but I have mountain biking in common with, and I find that we have other things in common. It's just opened up so many doors for me to meet different kinds of people. And one of the things that I'm finding within that is that everybody's on your side. Like, it's such a cool, down to earth community where, and at first you're kind of intimidated going into a new culture because you don't really know what to expect. Mountain biking is pretty intimidating, but then you start to meet the people that are riding within it, and everyone is just happy you're on a bike with them, and they're inviting you into their friend groups and their group rides, and just giving you pointers. And it's really refreshing when you come across a group like that. I think maybe I don't know why it is in mountain biking, but it's probably hiking too and other groups too. But what it really helped me do is, like I said, coming from an outsider perspective, being that invited into a group that was new to me was very sweet.
Yeah. It's very therapeutic. I've found, as far as riding and being outdoors, I think has a part of that. I remember I used to ride on the road a lot, Tony, but the freaking car scared the bejeebus out of me,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And I'm thinking I got on the trails and the tree is not going to jump out in front of me, right? I might hit it, but it's not going to jump out. It's not going to jump out in front of me. Um, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Hopefully, you won't pass on it. But so when you reach a caliber of rider like yourself, an athlete like yourself, when I first got into mountain biking, I always thought I was in competition with someone else, Tony. So
Hmm.
therefore, I turned down a lot of group rides because I already had myself not measuring up to the rest of the group, and I didn't want to feel that way. So I made up these excuses. Oh, I can't make it today, and then I'd go ride by myself.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced that? And do you even experience that now at the level of rider that you are, athlete you are? Do you still go through that at all?
Yeah, of course. I think that's
Yeah.
just part of it. I think that doesn't just go for mountain biking, can go for anything. Like, for me, it's gotten a little bit better because of I pushed myself through the hard part of plenty of times of just pushing myself to go on the ride and be around the other people and experience it. Especially when I was new to it, I was always happily surprised. I was less intimidated once I got to the trail and I got into the group and I noticed that they were on my side. They were looking out for me, even if they were better than me. They weren't going to leave me behind. They didn't make fun of me. There was no, like there was none of that. They were just stoked that you're with them on the trail, outdoors, being a part of the group. Um, for me, sometimes, if I'm going to be totally honest, it's always interesting for me to go into a group ride or a group setting and ride with people that I haven't before, because I feel like if you've seen my channel, you have this prejudgment of me, or you think I'm going to do this, or you think I'm going to act like this, or this or that. But once you get me in person, I'm not this like cartoon character or something. It's
Yeah.
just me, and sometimes I'm quiet. So I think people are kind of like taken aback because I'm not like the life of the party all the time. But I'm not, and it just depends on the mood. And sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. So I have a little bit extra baggage. I think I carry with me now that I have the channel, and it's been pretty well known that I take that and I always, I think for us, we're our own worst enemies. We're the
Yeah.
ones that are creating our own problems in our minds that probably our people aren't even thinking of. Like the stuff I'm talking about right now, it's probably stuff nobody even thinks about. But hey, I'm thinking about it, so I'm sure other people are going through similar things.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember somebody once said, I think it was Les Brown, who said, if there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do me no harm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Very profound. Um, there's a special event coming up in the mountain bike community. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Would you mind dropping some information about that? Anybody that's a mountain biker that's listening may be interested in attending that.
Sure. It's on July 22nd at Sky Park Bike Park, and it's going to be focused on mental health, anxiety, trials, tribulations, just stuff we deal with and go through in life. And a lot of it is just what stuff we're talking about right now. It's going to be hosted by Adam Mock and Mark Hill. If you're new to mountain biking, that's okay. Come on out, join the group. Everyone is super friendly. There's going to be music. There's going to be great food, beverage, and people are going to be talking about these issues and bringing light to it. And I mean, that's my pitch. I think that everyone should be thinking about coming, because I think it's a great introduction to, if you've never been to Sky Park Bike Park, Sky Park at Santa's Village up in Lake Arrowhead. It's a beautiful place to come and visit regardless.
Yeah, beautifully said. I know Adam is on the call. He is saying it's July 15th. Let me just double check our date.
Yeah.
No, you're fine, Tony. It takes a village, right? So
yeah,
yeah, I love it. So let me just make sure. And those are for people that are on the West Coast. Unless you want to jump in a plane and fly and meet us, we would love to have you. It's going to be a super fun time. I know this is our second annual. Those of you that don't remember, I had Adam Mock on. Hey, Adam, do me a favor, brother. Unmute yourself, would you? Give a shout out about Ride and Shine and tell the people a little bit about what it's about.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from Tony. I'm grateful that Tony's actually going to be a part of it for the second year in a row. He's just a wonderful human being, and really grateful for his support. But it's next Saturday, July 15th, Lake Arrowhead at Sky Park Santa's Village. You don't need to be a mountain biker to attend. Sky Park has so many other things to do. Great food. There's zip lines. There's trails that you can hike on. There's axe throwing, wall climbing. It's perfect for families and such. But our whole idea was to get together with a bunch of dope people like Tony, where you can ride with them, hang out with them, get a chance to say hello. And then at 1 o'clock at the terrace, we are going to illuminate stories of hope. That's the shine part. Illuminate stories of hope from within our MTB community and try and end the stigma around our mental health. And the goal every year is just to get one person. If we can get one person and save their life, and someone takes the steps necessary to get the help that they deserve for their life, then that will mean everything.
Yeah, super cool. Appreciate you, Adam. Thanks so much. Yeah, saving
Adam.
lives. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh no, I was just saying hi to Adam. I'm glad he was here. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah, it's so good.
Wouldn't miss it.
Yeah, I watched Adam and the MTB Women Network. They had a video podcast the other day. Mark Hill was there. A bunch of people were on. It was hilarious. Friends, that's what community is all about. That, I teamed up with Circles, Tony, a couple of years back, and I've been leading these master classes now. And I've just fallen in love with the community. There's people here that they support one another. The greatest thing about Circles is that anybody, anywhere, 24/7 can be going through a life challenge and log on the app and get the support they need. And that's the vision of Circles. We appreciate you being here, Tony. Hey, friends, I want to open up. I know we only got a couple of minutes left, but I want to open up to anybody who has a specific question for Tony, something that he said that resonated with you tonight that you'd want to share. We always want to give our guests an opportunity to engage. So if that's you, do me a favor, hit that hand app, and I'll be able to see you, give a shout to you, and then bring you on, and you can ask your question. No pressure. Anybody is not wanting to talk, that's no problem at all. You can just continue to listen, but I just want to give you the opportunity. Anybody here have some comments, question for our guest tonight? Hit us up. This is where we just do the TikTok, Tony. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. So, hey, brother, tell us a little bit about, as we're waiting on somebody that has a question, your family, what's that look like?
I'm married. I have a wife named Heather, who's working from home today. I have a little dog named Pip, call him Pupper Pip, and we're about to go get some food and get some dinner with him a little bit. I live in Fullerton, California. Like I said, originally from Connecticut on the East Coast. I do not miss the winter one bit. I love it out here in California. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, Tony DaSilva, I thank you for being a guest here with us on Circles Masterclass. We appreciate you, brother, so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. This was fantastic.
Yeah, you're welcome. Friends, you've been listening to Tony DaSilva right here on Circles Masterclass. My name is Jeff. I'm your host. Thank you to Erod and Jonathan, who jumped in, got the technical side fixed, got me into the conversation so that we could continue to share. Thank you for being here at the close of our room. You're going to have an opportunity to share your feedback. Please take a moment to do so. Share some love with Tony. Share some love for Circles. Let us know how you are appreciating the app, and let us know how we can serve you even more. That's my time here. That's our time. Tony, again, thank you for being our special guest. Can we show some love in the house for our guest one more time, friends?
Oh,
There
thank
it
you,
is.
guys.
There it's coming. There it's coming. There it's
Thank
coming.
you.
All right, my last request, and we're all going to say thank you, but we're going to hear it in your voice. Just unmute yourself on the count of 3, and then whoever is hosting this room, this is just your cue that you're going to get a chance to shut this one down. But on the count of 3, everybody unmute yourself and just say thank you to Tony. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go for it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
I love it. That's our time. Good night, everybody. Thank you, Tony. We'll see you
Night.
on the trails, brother.
Yep. Bye.
Good night, guys.
See ya.